Inclusive employers, good for business. In this video, we hear from BT, Wired Magazine, KPMG and Intelligent Energy on the benefits of a diverse workforce, the adaptations that can be made, support for those adjustments and advice to other organisations looking to employ specifically blind and partially sighted people. Benefits of a diverse workforce.
I'm Lauren Gurney and I am the HR Director at Intelligent Energy. Diversity is critical to any business, not just Intelligent Energy, in terms of disabilities, gender, nationality, different backgrounds. It's critical to our success. We all view the world in different ways. We all have different experiences and skills, and for any business, including Intelligent Energy, to succeed, we have to bring those together.
My name is Edward Mitchell and I'm the co-chair of Able2, which is People's Disability Network. The more people and the more representation that you have and the more included that you make them in all of your communications and all of your products and your thoughts and opinions and views, actually that means that then by representing it internally, we can represent our customer base with that. So I think that's really key for us as a business moving forwards.
Hi, I'm Mark Russell. I work for KPMG as a manager in our inclusion, diversity and social equality team. If you look at diversity, I think the business case has been proved over many years now. There's numerous reports that point to greater diversity leading to greater revenues, more productivity. And again, we see that in the workplace. We know that our diverse teams are more likely to provide better outcomes for clients. It's 14.1 million people in the UK that have got a disability, so roughly 1 in 5. So we absolutely need to be ensuring that employers are open and inclusive to disabled people.
Adjustments that can be made.
To accommodate Jesse in his role with us, we have had to put some adaptations in place. These were all very straightforward, predominantly through talking with Jesse. We've put in place a number of technological adaptations around software, and also more practically things like if Jesse's attending a meeting, we send any documents to him ahead of time so that he can review those and be prepared for the meeting.
I'm Mike Dent and I'm the managing editor of Wired Magazine. We haven't actually employed a person with a visual impairment before, so Alex is our first one in terms of building that kind of accessibility into our everyday work. It's actually been surprisingly easy to make those adaptations into our daily work, simply because obviously diversity and accessibility are kind of quite key to any modern workplace, but I think for Wired in particular it's important that we actually take that on board and make positive steps towards doing it. We kind of found that, just speaking to Alex, that a lot of the things that the accommodations that he needed, we already had in place anyway, and the ones we didn't were actually quite easy to do. So, for example, we spoke to him about the size of his Mac, and so I made sure he had the biggest Mac screen possible, and then we made sure the software suite on there was compatible with his particular needs. For the telephony system, we have this thing called 8x8, which is a VoIP telephone system. So again, you can make and receive calls through the computer, or they can be diverted to his handset or his smartphone. So any kind of accessibility tools that he has on there are automatically usable within the office. So it's not like massive accommodations. They're actually quite doable. And I think if you approach the work environment with accessibility in mind, then these things don't really make a massive dent in your day-to-day running.
I'm Katie Oldham and I'm a technical design lead at BT. My assumption of the adjustments that need to be made were limited. In all honesty, I didn't myself and my line manager didn't have a clue really. We'd not come across someone with a visual impairment before, especially in our role, which is, as we perceived it to be, a very visual role. The difficulty bit was knowing where to go and who to speak to, and once you get that, it was fine. So I feel a lot more confident and know where to go. And Callum made it a lot easier as well, because he knows what he needs, as well as obviously the company telling him what they suggested as well. So it was pretty seamless from that point on, so I'd be comfortable. Yeah, I think the assistive technology that's in place is amazing, and I think probably more awareness needs to be made that it is out there, because if it had been, that how question that I had at the beginning probably wouldn't have been there. You know, there would have been no worries, and it was like, well, yeah, it really helps him, so I think it's great.
Support to make adjustments.
Some of the adjustments were paid for by Access to Work, which is a great government scheme which is about helping people with disabilities actually get into the workforce and into the workplace. And then some of the adjustments were paid for by BT.
In terms of the cost of making adjustments for a blind or partially sighted person, what I'd say to an employer is don't worry, please don't worry about it. We have made a number of adjustments for Jessie, and the cost has not been prohibitive. It's been low cost. We have also had additional funding from Access to Work, and that was used for a partially sighted employee to be able to continue to work for us through providing him with taxis to and from work each day. So that was a big help towards the cost as well.
At KPMG, there's a lot of adjustments that will just be made in-house, and we won't need to use Access to Work because, again, it's a large organisation. Some of the assistive tech we can procure on a sort of a site licence basis, but again, for more expensive adjustments, Access to Work's there, and sometimes it's just about knowing what's there. Like, you don't know what you don't know, so sometimes it's about being open, looking to explore doing something differently, and learning together with your employees to understand how you can absolutely open up an organisation to being more inclusive.
Advice to employers.
So I would say to any employer that is considering employing someone that is blind or partially sighted to absolutely do it. And often we kind of think about those self-imposed barriers or those perceptions of what maybe a blind and partially sighted person might not be able to do in the workplace, but it's important that you don't even think about that and think about the strengths.
The advice to an employer wanting to employ somebody who's partially sighted or blind is to just, I suppose, have faith in them that they can do it, and there are the assistive tools there that can help them along, and they can go a long way.
I think if an employer is questioning whether they could accommodate someone with some kind of visual impairment, I would say not to worry about it, because if you look at the infrastructure within your building, if it's a good, healthy, inclusive environment, then you've probably got 90% of what you need in place already, and the rest of the tweaks on top of that really are very small adjustments to software or just to bits of equipment. It's nothing really expensive or taxing. It's actually quite easy to do.
Callum is doing well. He's been with us. I can't believe it's a year now, because it's passed really quick. He has proved us wrong, and he can come in and do a very visual role. And he's not let anything stop him.
I think I would say that my own experience with sight loss is obviously incredibly limited, but I think working with Alex, we've found that it's not actually a limitation in itself, certainly not for the kind of work that Wired does across all of our different brands.
If I was to give any advice to another organisation who was looking to bring in an employee who was blind or partially sighted, I would say don't be fearful. Speak to the potential employee, speak to the individual, find out what it is that they believe they will need, and you'll see that it is very straightforward. Everything can be accommodated, and the skills that the person will bring to the role will definitely outweigh any special measures you need to put in place to accommodate them.
Watch our We Work videos to see the jobs blind and partially sighted people are performing in the workplace. Go to pocklington-trust.org.uk/employment/we-work. Thomas Pocklington Trust.